Things are actually getting insanely interesting, and this might just be an actual genius master plan that Xal'atath has been pulling off. She observed how we defeated Sargeras and N'Zoth, then the Dragonflight prophecy started making more and more sense, especially with the new information. The children of the First Flesh, probably these new nerubians, she suddenly got so powerful to completely transform a race. Well, check this out. She is holding in her hand the essence of Galakrond that Iridikron had delivered to her on a silver platter. Now her plan has been put into action, but what exactly even is this plan? What is she planning? Even more importantly, literally, who even is Xal'atath? How does she even know all this stuff? Xal'atath might just actually be a first villain in all of Warcraft history that doesn't underestimate us and that has been slowly but surely leading us to our doom. Let's explore what we know. Let's explore her role in the new saga as the new master villain and who Xal'atath even is. If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else Warcraft related, Gamivo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code Doron to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamivo. So, I've been talking about this for nearly a year, how Xal'atath has been hiding in plain sight, how she has some type of a plan, and how all of this actually made sense even early on in Dragonflight. If you compare the whispers all the way back from Legion, they actually related to a lot of things happening in Dragonflight. Even the 5 torches have been lit, like, we even associated with everything, but now I really think this is the case. Now, I gotta be honest, I mean, since the trailer, I've been so against this 8D chess master plans, cosmological stuff, but I really do think they may be doing something incredible here, as like this is a villain they have been building up since 3 expansions ago, and it will probably be in the next 2-3 expansions, so it could actually turn out into a super legit, like a long-term villain. Keep in mind, I mean, Sargeras has been considered the master villain of the Warcraft universe, but he has only been around for like 5-6 expansions as well, so realistically, if done correctly, Xal'atath really has the possibility to become a super iconic character in this new saga, not a one-off expansion baddie like Zoal the Jailer. So let me just super quickly explain to you how genius Blizzard has actually made this and the hints we had gotten so far, and then let's get into what she's actually after in this new World Soul saga. First off, why Xal'atath is more unique than any villain out there is that we literally had her in our blade. Like, she has the experience with us, the player characters, in person. She saw us defeat the Legion, she saw us defeat the Old Gods, so it's not going to be one of those villains that is like, you petty mortals your mind can't even comprehend, and then, gets defeated in a raid and then on to the next big bad guy. This is evident because she has been messing with us and will probably be messing with us for more than a decade in total. First of all, her whispers were super intriguing even back in the day. She appeared as if she has a serious rivalry with the Old Gods. She thought N'Zoth was the weakest. She also knew, surprisingly, way too much for just a random void minion, or way too much for a blade that you're using to fight people. On multiple occasions, she referred to herself as equals compared to the other Old Gods, and she was aware of the ancient Old Gods civil wars that no one even knew in the past, like the one that happened on the Broken Shore between Xal'atath and N'Zoth. Then even back in Legion, she referred to Neltharion and how they had used him as a weapon. Keep in mind here, they, not her masters, the Old Gods, and she even referenced Galakrond back in Legion, which I find incredibly interesting as we're getting to that right now. Then Xal'atath disappeared and we had not seen her until 10.1.5 when she had appeared in that portal of Iridikron. At the time, we essentially had 2 speculations. Either she was the claw of Xal'atath or an ancient forgotten 5th Old God that fell in the battle against her own. Now, personally, I'd discard the claw of Xal'atath theory completely. The 5th Old God theory is still completely legit, but there is also a possibility that she might have been something else, not an Old God, but a more pure void being. Blizzard told us in an interview recently that the Old Gods may have changed their original plans since they were sent by the Void Lords back in the day, so there was a possibility that they had rebelled against this original plan. If you may remember, Old Gods were said in the Chronicle to just be weapons, pure weapons of the Void Lords to corrupt world souls across the universe. Well, with this information, an interesting theory is that she might have been sent to the old gods on Azeroth back in the day to get them back in line and to stop their infighting like a Void Lord mediator, but at the moment that is just speculation, we can't really say further. But let's get into the super interesting new info that we had just gotten. So 3 new major hints for Xal'atath we had in Dragonflight had just actually been explained, so they now finally make sense, we know what it is. We had the appearance in the portal, people said this was an elf, this was a Shara, but I mean, let's be real, it's been obvious that this was Xal'atath since day one. Then in 10.1.7 we had gotten a few NPCs talking about this mysterious void beings in Blade, just rumors, making this obvious that Xal'atath is going to be relevant in 11.0. However, the most interesting is this prophecy we had gotten in near 10.1 called the Song of the Depths that now makes complete sense. Now, you have probably heard this, so I don't want to repeat myself in detail with this, but let me explain how this makes sense with the recent lore developments, because previously, I mean, every theory we had was just a shot in the dark, but now we kind of know what is actually happening. So, this is a Naga book talking about how Ashara is returning. It talks about this Harbinger that we had previously associated with Xal'atath, but let's now 100% confirm like this Harbinger is actually Xal'atath. It talks about how she gathers the children of the first flesh to reclaim what was lost. They must remember their vows and serve those to whom they owe fealty. While they toil away in the deep places, we will go to the Dragon Isles. This is the Naga actually talking. Now, let's bring this back to the War Within and the recent BlizzCon announcement. I would say this is almost certainly talking about the Nerubians. Remember, Nerubians are ancient old god minions that eventually became independent. Why they're called Children of the First Flesh is probably because they're one of the first living inhabitants of the ancient Black Empire. Toil in the deep places, I mean, these guys are literally at the chamber of the world soul of Azeroth under the ground in literal deep places. Now, we learned that Xal'atath has made a pact with them, used powers to turn them into humanoids, and they're now doing the final part that this prophecy, this document had announced. Remember, the document talks about a primal power that seeks the end of order, how they can bend it to their goals. I mean, obviously, Iridikron talked about a hunger lost to the ages. Obviously, Galakrond, we got that hunger back. Now, check this out, you might have actually missed this from the cinematic. Iridikron used an ancient dragon soul of Deathwing to collect the essence of Galakrond from the past, and we saw it filled with the void at the end of 10.1.5. Well, check out the latest cinematic and you can see that Xal'atath is now holding that exact same artifact in her hand. I mean, meaning the guy had literally just delivered it to her on a silver platter. Then the final line of the prophecy says this: when these things come to pass, the Harbinger will fulfill the final prophecy and complete the awakening. A dark heart left broken awaits the taking. So guys, these things have actually come to pass. I mean, she got the children of the first flesh, they turned to their original purpose, which is serving the void. I'm pretty sure she is now in on the other part of taking the dark heart that has been left broken. Remember, previously it was implied the old gods were almost entirely successful in corrupting Azeroth into a void being, but the Titans stopped it last minute. This might be why they're talking about not starting the process anew, but actually completing the awakening, because it was almost complete in the past. Blizzard also told us that this new zone we're going to is literally like the chamber to the world's soul, like as close as we can get to it as possible. Like, this is probably where Azeroth is supposed to awaken. Not to go crazy into speculations now, but do you think it is possible that the Light also knew that the Void Titan was almost about to be born? Then, the process was nearing completion, so they just flung that shard that is stuck literally right next to the heart of Azeroth in like a futile attempt to stop it. Speculation, of course, but nonetheless, let's get into what Blizzard just gave us with the new information from the interviews. So, she isn't actually rebuilding the Black Empire as we had previously thought. She's essentially starting Black Empire 2.0 like a brand new one. As Blizzard stated, the old gods are now in the past, it is now time for part 2. Personally, I don't think this is actually their end. They're just implying that the expansion won't be about, for example, Yogg-Saron Awakening or something too simple like that, just one single old god. Apparently, old god blood is running deep within the cracks of Azeroth, and she's using this blood to build her new empire. It was also confirmed that Alleria and Xal'atath now have an intense rivalry, as Alleria is also a being of the void, but she's on like the good side of the Void, so I think she'll be like a key character in trying to get us up to speed on Xal'atath's master plan to actually understand her thought process. Now personally, I don't think Xal'atath is planning something insane that we don't already know. I think the goal is to ultimately corrupt the world soul, but the master plan is that she plans to do multiple things at once, to like kill two birds with one stone. Remember this, Iridikron said exactly this about the Titans. All they wanted was our world. With this, the Harbinger will pry it from their grasp, and when the Titans come to reclaim their prize, I will be waiting. Blizzard already told us that all the cosmological forces are fighting for supremacy to be this one leading force in the universe, so the goal as a being of the Void is not only to corrupt Azeroth and get all this power for the Void, but also to just knock out the Titans in this process. So my guess is that it is going to happen like this. Xal'atath is almost done completing the process, the Void invasion comes in quote last to complete the job, and then the light comes to save us. Theralian probably calls it, or we could even see Anduin, you know, reclaiming the light. Super early to say how it happens, but they implied it happens through the Naru and the Sunwell, and we potentially have a Naru in the new zone, so we need more development to actually guess how this kind of connects. However, that now leads us to the light and the Void competing for Azeroth, and then the Titans show up to do everything for themselves, and we are now stuck in this like free-for-all crazy middle of this just combat. Personally, I don't think Xal'atath's plan will go further than, wow, Midnight. I feel like she could be the final boss of that expansion, but I think that Iridikron may actually be saved as a long-term villain, as his lair is in Northrend, his goal is to draw the Titans, he says he will wait for them there, and we know that will happen a few years from now, so he's probably a long-term plan. So I feel like Xal'atath will be messing with us all throughout War Within. Her plan will culminate in, wow, Midnight, where we will finally be able to face off against her, and then the story will get a new twist. As Chris Metzen said, it will wildly spiral out of control, and that will lead us to the ultimate face-off against the Titans in Northrend. However, even with this, we would have 2 whole expansions of room for Xal'atath to mess with us and to become an actually super interesting villain. Thank you for watching. Check out these new 39 hero classes and what else we can get in the future by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain that I've recorded in person by also clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!